Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. This morning, the bank confirmed that the check was good, and Chris raced to the office like lightning, without even changing his face still bore yesterday's unwashed paint. Voices calling his name echoed in the lobby. Upon entering the office, he saw everyone swamped with work. Maybe one day he'll be one of them, but for now, he's a bundle of nerves ready to face the shareholders interviewing. Seeing his shabby look, shareholders looked stunned. Even his recommending supervisor felt indescribable shame. But Chris would soon showcase his unmatched eloquence. He explained the origin of his outfit and mentioned that he had been detained for not paying a parking ticket. Everyone burst into laughter. Chris was the straightest student in his small class of 12, and he managed to rank near the top even in a raider class of 20 while serving in the Navy. I will find the answer. Is this really okay, Chris? What would you say if a guy walked in for an interview wearing nothing, and I hired him? Subtitles. What would you say? He must be dressed better than me. Chris proved his worth in a unique way, and luckily, he passed the interview to become an intern, although he just found out. The 6-month internship was unpaid, and given his current predicament, he wasn't sure if he had the courage to survive without a paycheck, but the supervisor offered him a piece of advice. If he couldn't seize this opportunity, he'd quickly make way for someone else. Plus, what would the other shareholders think if he gave up now? At the internship's end, only 1 in 20 is hired. If he's not the one, isn't the 6-month training wasted? The internship was a no-return gamble. His sole income for 6 months came from 6 scanners. He would still squeeze in time to sell, hoping to sell off all the machines just to scrape by. Upon arriving home, he painted over Chris, "You suck," symbolizing a new beginning. He then phoned the supervisor's secretary. He told her he was thrilled to accept the supervisor's internship offer and would arrive on time for training in a few days. At the agreed 6 p.m., his son didn't arrive. It wasn't until 9 p.m. that Chris, at the window, saw his wife holding their cherished son. He rushed downstairs to greet them and tried to take his son, but the little one wasn't having it. Seeing his son asleep finally relieved the weight off his chest. The boyfriend of his wife's sister runs a restaurant in NYC, offering Chris a waiter job. Tomorrow, his wife takes the train, leaving the shabby home. She'd leave the son with Chris, but she worried about how they'd manage. Hearing him talk about trading his stable job for an internship sent Chris into a slight panic. The first thing his wife did was mock Chris' performance, feeling that he had downgraded from salesman to intern. For a middle-aged man, that was just plain ridiculous. Just before leaving, she gazed lovingly at their son. Despite the reluctance, she had to harden her heart for her own happiness. At that moment, Chris felt like the biggest failure. He felt he didn't even have the guts to plead for his wife to stay. She hadn't expected that the child couldn't hold her back, and she went back home to find friends to help move. She moved with their son to a cheaper motel, while the little guy enrolled in a Chinese-run daycare. Among the kids, their son was the sole black child. Chris took education seriously. When he noticed that the daycare mixed up the word happy, he made sure to point out their mistake directly. He didn't want his kid to get confused. Chris realized he would be 28 soon, so he was determined that his child must know him. One day, while walking to school with his son, little Chris suddenly mentioned a character he had seen on TV in daycare. After asking, Chris discovered that the daycare played children's shows every day. Subsequently, she arrived at the kindergarten to inquire with the principal about the situation. It turned out that they were showing TV programs to help the children learn about American history. She likely thought to herself, "All I want is to eat. Can you put that dog in the room?" Sure. The principal's words left Chris speechless. He lacked the means to provide better educational opportunities for his son. Chris officially began training, last time preparing a Fortune 500 employee list. They needed to pick 60 companies from it to call randomly selected potential clients. Those who could land more business had a better chance of being hired, and the company would also hold competitive tests to evaluate interns. Last year, someone scored 96 but still didn't become a full-time employee, so he knew he had to ace the test to secure his victory. During his 10-minute lunch break, he planned to buy bread to calf, but met a shareholder from his last interview and unexpectedly saw a homeless man. He quickly made up an excuse for the shareholder and chased after the man, but just as he was about to catch up, he forgot to look where he was going and crashed right into a car. He even lost a shoe in the process. The driver wanted to take him to the hospital for a checkup, but he had work to do. He returned to the office looking like a hot mess, and his mischievous co-workers were teasing him as he left to fetch his kid from school. When his son asked where his shoe had gone, he jokingly said it had been knocked off by a car to sound like a strong dad. He was always the first to arrive for training, but his skin color often led his boss to make him fetch coffee. Even when someone wanted to help, they would still just target Chris himself, making him feel completely belittled. Because he still had to pick up his kid from daycare, he had to finish his work early to catch the 4 p.m. bus. When he finally returned to the motel, it was late at night, and the owner kept pestering him for rent, to which he always replied, "Next time." Life is never short of hope. Every phone number on that list ignited his fighting spirit. He struggled to find time for himself at work, yet others joys and saw us in the line, while others left at 7 p.m. He finished 9 hours work in 6. He refrained from drinking water so he could save time on bathroom breaks, but 2 months went by, and he hadn't finished calling a single list. He realized such inefficiency wouldn't work and he couldn't seize that 5 hands. So he called the boss directly, who told him to arrive in 20 minutes, ending with a subscription prompt.